طب if you see
नहमदुहु व नुसल्ली अला रसूलिहिल करीम अम्मा बाद फ़ाउज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to this transmission. As the holy month of Ramazan is approaching, we thought to shed some light on some of the important aspects of Ramazan. And to enlighten us in this regard, we have today with us Maulana Mustafa Kamal Haidar, longest serving full time missionary of the Lahore Ahmadiyya movement, Bachelor's of Arts in Islamic Theology, Peshawar, Pakistan, studied comparative religion under the tutelage of Maulana Abdul Haq Vidyarthi Sahib. Welcome, sir.
welcome, assalamu alaikum, and thank you for having me as a guest presenter.
Yeah. And we have also with us Imam Amir Aziz, Imam of the oldest mosque of Germany, certified in Arabic language and Islamic Sharia, Al Azhar University, Egypt, certified in professional studies, United Kingdom. Welcome, sir.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Thank you.
Imam Amir Aziz, we often see a confusion about the beginning and ending of Ramadan. Many countries rely on Saudi Arabia's announcement in this regard. What does the Holy Quran and the sayings and doings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, tell us?
Yeah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nasalli ala Rasul al-Kareem. Amma ba'du fa'udhu billahi min shaitanir rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much. This is a very important question and a very critical question also about the beginning and ending of Ramadan, which unfortunately it has become a critical question. Otherwise, it is very easy and very uh, it's a very easy to go through it and very easy to understand this concept. In the Quran, actually, we find the main important injection, and that is to fast. And the Quran says in the Holy Quran, God said that Ya ayyuhallazina amanu kutiba alaykum as-siyamu kama kutiba alal ladzina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. O people, we have prescribed for you fasting, and as it has been prescribed to the people before you, like people of other religions, so that you guard against evil. Lallakum tattaqun, so that you become pious, you become more dutiful, more responsible. That is the injunction in the Holy Quran. And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he explained how when it had to start. So obviously, because in the Quran God said that Shahr Ramadan allazi unzila fil Quran, that it is that month in which Quran was revealed. So therefore, the beginning after fasting, it starts in Ramadan, the month of which is the holy month for Muslims. And as we know that the Ramadan and all Islamic calendar, it depends on lunar calendar, not on the solar calendar. So in lunar calendar, there sometimes the month is of 29 days and sometimes it is 30 days. So obviously, when Prophet ﷺ in one of his hadiths, he has specifically clarified, and the hadith is Asharu Tisa wa Ishrun, wa idha ra'aytum al halala fasamu, wa idha ra'aytumu faftaru, fa in ghumma alaykum fakturu lahu. That the Prophet ﷺ said that month, like the lunar month, is sometime it is Tisa wa Ishrun, 29 days, and sometime and when you see the moon, then you start your fasting, and when you see the moon again, and then you stop fasting, and then fine humma alaikum. But if there is on that day the himal is not clear, then you can't see the moon. Then فَأَكْثُرُ لَهُ, then it means that you complete your 30 days. So now at that time, while at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, this astronomical science, it was not so much developed. And obviously, Prophet ﷺ then very clearly gave this instruction that if the lunar month is 29 days and you see the moon, then you stop the fasting and then celebrate your Eid. But in case if there is on that day it is cloudy and you cannot see, then you complete your 30 days next day. So when it means 30 days, so next after like on 29th, you cannot, you are unable to see the moon. Then on 30th, you are not going to see moon again because you know now that the month has completed. So the important was not to see the moon. This is absolutely, actually a wrong concept came into the mind of the people, because Prophet ﷺ said, when it is on that day is cloudy and you cannot see the moon, then on 30th day you complete your 30th day. So will we again then start seeing the moon on 30th of Ramadan? No, because we know now the month has completed. So the important was not that you have to see the moon, but was that you have to complete the whole month. So if it is 29 days, then it is 29 days. If it is 30 days, then you complete your 30 days. So on that is the reason that Prophet ﷺ, he actually said that when you see the moon, you start Ramadan, and when you see then the moon again, and then you finish it. But nowadays, even the science has gone a bit far ahead. Nowadays, for example, what the confusion we have, in the Quran, then there are certain timing for the prayers they are mentioned. But do we go, we pray according to that timing which is mentioned in the Quran, that we only see when is the position of the moon and of the sun, and when it is that the sun it has now set? No, what we do, we only go through our watches, because the science has developed and now we can only just see our watch and we see that now it is the time of the prayer. We don't look at the movement of the sun, we don't look at the movement of the moon anymore. So this is the same is here, that now the science has so much developed that even the scientists, and they can even tell you when the moon it will appear even for almost 10-20 days before that, 20 years ahead. So then now it is the time that we should only rely on that. The scientists, when they say this is the time of Ramadan, we should follow it. And what I would suggest, that all Muslims all over the world, instead of there can be one suggestion, yes, that we all follow Saudi Arabia. That's good, but it is also not possible. So only is that when the scientists they give us the date, specific date, that on this day the moon it will appear, then we should start our Ramadan according to that. There is no need to see actually physical moon at that time, even when the sun, when the scientists they say we should follow that, because we are already following in all our worship prayers, we are following science. So in this case, we should also follow the science also.
Yeah, thank you. Maulana Mustafa Kamal Haidal, is Taraweeh an innovation in Islam? Kindly throw some light on this with reference to the Holy Quran and Hadith.
The first thing we have to understand is what is meant by innovation. There are many people who don't realize that they refer to innovation as what was known as bid'ah. But people don't realize that the word hadith itself means exists something that exists new for the first time, and is an innovation or invented, and that word is also synonymous with bid'ah. So we have to be clear as to what is meant by innovation, because by this definition, one can say hadith is an innovation because the word itself means that. But the reason why people call Taraweeh a bid'at is because they do not see there is so much emphasis on tahajjud, that they don't see the expression Salatul Taraweeh, and they feel that that is not therefore one of the recommended prayers. But when we look at it, we will see that actually Taraweeh would have been the first prayer that the Prophet Muhammad performed when he was at Makkah, because Tahajjud was revealed and joined the Prophet almost 5 years after he started prophethood, in chapter 17 of the Quran. So we have to be clear as to what we really mean by innovation. Now, the Prophet Muhammad's sunnah was that he did not follow hadith. He had no Bukhari, he had no hadith at that time. And this issue of Salatul Taraweeh or Salatul Tahajjud is really what we call semantics. So, lafz niza, as they say, or quibble over words. Because both Taraweeh and Tahajjud are not referred to as prayers in the Quran. but they are recitations or study of the Quran. The Quran says, keep awake by it, which it means here the Quran. And the Prophet Muhammad performed this waking by the Quran through prayer, and that is how the prayer came to be known as Tahajjud. But not because the Prophet Muhammad did not refer to a prayer as Salatul Taraweeh, we must conclude that that is bid'ah. Because only two prayers are mentioned by name in the Quran, Salatul Fajr and Salatul Isha in chapter 24, verse 58. In fact, there's a prayer mentioned in the Quran which is many people cannot identify and don't even know. It's called the Salatul Wusta. And this is not specified in the Quran as a specific prayer, but some people interpret to be Asr, some as Maghrib or so. But Salatul Wusta doesn't mean that we have to perform a prayer called Salatul Wusta. Similarly, in the case of Jummah, there's no Salatul Jummah. The Quran says Salat min yawmil Jummah, the prayer that is offered on the day of gathering. So that the Taraweeh prayer really is not an innovation or bid'ah. If we look at the Quran, we will see that before the five regular prayers were enjoined on the Prophet in his Miraj, the Prophet Muhammad was commanded to pray at night. And this is found in verses 2 and 4 of chapter 73, which is recognized as the third chapter in order of revelation, long before the injunction of the Hajj was revealed. And the instruction given is to rise by night, accept a little half of it, or lessen it, or add to it, and recite the Quran in a leisurely manner. This prayer by night was performed in congregation or Jamaat, as chapter 73, verse 20 admits. You spend nearly 2/3 of the night in prayer, and sometimes half of it, and sometimes a third of it, and a group of those also with you do so. Now, Salatul Taraweeh and Salatul Tahajjud are the names which have been given to two prayers of the Prophet Muhammad, which he said at two times of the night. Both of these prayers are voluntary, they are not compulsory, but both require the recitation of the Quran. So in chapter 73, verse 6, the rising to pray by night is called Nashiatul Lail. Nashia signifies the first part of the night. In addition to the regular prayers at fixed times, the Quran encourages optional or voluntary prayers said individually, or it may be said in Jamaat as well. And so in chapter 73, the Quran enjoins prayer at night in verse 2. It refers to it as the first part of the night in verse 6. And in verse 20, it makes it clear that this prayer is optional in that everyone may not be able to do it. So regular prayer is also mentioned there. In chapter 17, verse 79, the Prophet Muhammad's prayer at night is described as tahajjud, and it refers to the latter part of the night after waking from sleep. So, chapter 73, which was revealed before chapter 17, where tahajjud is mentioned, refers to optional prayers at the first part of the night in verse 6, and this may be in congregation for those who are able, in verse 20 tells us this, and it requires reading of much of the Quran as is easy. And this prayer is what we call Taraweeh.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Imam Amir Aziz, what has been said for territories with long hours of fasting?
Yeah, that's so for fasting is that first of all we should keep in our mind that fasting here does not only mean to remain hungry and thirsty, as in one of the hadith Prophet ﷺ had said that the main purpose of fasting is that one has to control his desire, and it is one of the hadith he said that if somebody does not stop telling lie, then God doesn't need that he should remain hungry and thirsty. So we have to keep in our mind first the spirit of fasting, that it's not just a kind of diet program. Rather, it is the program where we are going to have a training program where we can change our own spiritual life, we can change our daily life, and try to improve our behavior. So in those countries, especially where there is a very long days and long nights, for example, in Scandinavia and all this, so there can be like different things. First of all, they can the best solution is that they should keep their fast according to the nearest country which they have, nearest Islamic country where there are the Ramadan timing. It is like a reasonable timing. or they can also keep the timing of Saudi Arabia. For example, in some countries, if Saudi Arabia is going to keep fast for 12 hours or 13 hours or 14 hours, then let them make this according to their own choice. They can make it, or they can even calculate it with the nearest country which they have, Islamic country, and it will almost be the same. I just give you, for example, here in Germany, I have been here like a couple of years here, and when I came, so the Ramadan it all started in here is summer timing, and summer times are very long. Like it starts at 3:30 sometime in the morning, and it ended at 10 o'clock. So the most of the Egyptian community here I met, they used to keep fast even here. Although yeah, most of the German people, they always follow the common timing from morning 3 o'clock till 10 o'clock in the evening. But the Egyptian community, most of the time, they followed with Saudi Arabia. Like they even they break their fast before Salat al Asr here when it is Asr time. So it is their own ijtihad, we can say. But the best, I think, for all such countries where it is very long day and it is very long night, they should make a fixed hours, and it is the duty of actually the ulama of that country, especially, and the scholars, that these scholars, they should make their own ijtihad, and then they should give a very clear injection to these the people of that country, that they should fast for these much hours. For example, in keeping calculating the hours with the Saudi Arabia, then it's okay. If they want to calculate with the nearest country, they can also calculate it accordingly. But obviously, they cannot fast for 22 hours because that is not the main purpose of fasting. Purpose of fasting, because when we keep only the purpose as stopping from eating and drinking, then it becomes the different. Then okay, then I would try my best that how long I can remain hungry and how far I can remain thirsty. So that is the difference. But if it means that our complete change of our behavior, and it means that how we can improve our daily routine, then obviously we have to fix it, and the special timing. And I think the best is that they should calculate either with Saudi Arabia, or they should calculate it with the nearest Islamic country. That is the only best solution.
Thank you so much. Maulana Haidal, how should Taraweeh be offered? Should it be offered individually or in congregation?
It really depends upon what is being achieved in the performance of Taraweeh. If one is studying the Quran, and the small chapters are more convenient if you have a large group of people, then it can be done in congregation. But there's not really no difference whether it is done in individually or in congregation. Since it is a recitation or study of the Quran, it can be either. It can be done as a group where people listen to the Quran, either you are in prayer, and they can learn the small chapters through the recitation, or longer chapters if you're teaching children, or you have a jamaat in which you want to educate them. So you can use the Taraweeh for that. So we have to understand that the importance of these guidelines that are given to us, these prayers that are given to us, is to achieve a purpose. It is to help to develop the human personality, and we have to use them for that purpose, so that Taraweeh can be used individually in order to develop our spiritual personality, or it can be used as a jamaat, because we cannot be selfish and just look after our own spirituality. We need to also be concerned of others, with others. That is why in Surah Al-Fatiha, we say, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Guide us on the right path. Even if you're praying alone, you don't consider yourself to be receiving asking Allah for assistance for yourself. We say, guide us all which means I also ask guidance for my parents, for my children, for my relatives, for my neighbors, for my community, for my society, so that prayer, individually or jointly with other people, can serve very useful purposes, and we have to really utilize it for that purpose. So it can be said
Yeah.
individually or it can be said in Jamaat.
Thank you. Also, Mulana Haidal, we do not see a unanimous view on the number of rakats to be offered during the Taraweeh prayer. So, if you could kindly enlighten us in this regard.
Okay, well, you have to understand that all of us need to understand that the Quran is a guide. It gives us directions. And anything that Allah has created, He has established it on what is called in Arabic an arsh, which means a framework. Like the human body has a framework, it's a skeleton, the bones that are there that keep the body, the flesh. You don't see the bones, you see the beauty of the body through the outward muscles and flesh and so on. Similarly, if you have a building, you have a foundation, you have a structure. And so the Holy Quran points out to us that that in order to achieve our heavenly experience, it speaks about Allah's arsh. We are empowered by the prayer, which is the Prophet Muhammad has said, as in a salata miraj al mu'mineen, that prayer is the mirage of the believers, takes us to heaven. And the Quran tells us that the arsh, or the framework or structure or outline by which we are empowered to rise up to heaven, has been eight in chapter 69, verse 17. And therefore, this is the basic structure, but it can be reduced or increased depending on the circumstances. For example, there were in the time of Imam Malik, 36 rakats were being read in Medina, and a witr had to be added to these. So it depends on the reciter of the Quran. If a person is reciting slowly, you may find it extremely difficult to stand long, and it may be better to increase the number of rakats. If a person is reciting very quickly, then you can read as much of the Quran as you want in a shorter period of time. So it depends on the reciter of the Quran. But the basic of Taraweeh is 8 rakats. It can be reduced or it can be increased depending upon the circumstances.
Okay. Thank you. Imam Amar Aziz, how to make the best use of this opportunity of having the holy month of Ramadan? What kind of a routine or a timetable should we have during this holy month?
Yeah, yeah. There's one. I would just like, as Maulana Kamal Haidal, he has already in the point
Sure.
explained about Taraweeh prayer. So the best is that what we can say about Taraweeh is that in during that time we can recite Quran. While we need always something to learn, we always need sometime group study. We go for group studies, and then at the same time we want something to have a kind of a conference where we can convey our thought to the people. So Taraweeh is actually in one after 1 year. It is the time it comes when people they can at least go through the Holy Quran, because when Imam recites, then they can at least listen to it, and if they want to look at it, so they can even hold Quran and they can see. So this is the kind where they can have at least they can go through Quran at least once in a year. The best routine, as in the as I told, that in the Quran God has specifically mentioned that the purpose of the fasting is lallakum tattaqun, so that you become more dutiful, more responsible. The best, I think, what we can take benefit of this holy month is, first of all, spiritual elevation of ourselves. And that spiritual elevation is that praying at least regularly 5 times a day, and then attending Dravi. Or the best is that we should at least have our Tahajjud prayer during this Ramadan, because otherwise, in our daily routine, mostly people they don't get that opportunity that they can have Taraweeh, they can have a Tahajjud. But at least during this month of Ramadan, we can have our Tahajjud regularly. Or and then the other is that we can, the Prophet ﷺ, he had said that if somebody keep fast, and if he does not stop from the evil action, and if he does not stop from telling lie, and then it is better that he should not fast. And then in one of the hadiths, Prophet ﷺ had said that if somebody abuses you and you're fasting, then you should only respond to him that inni Simon, that I am fasting, so I am not going to abuse you back. So means that how we can improve our moral and our behavioral structure, behavior in our daily routine. So it is the best time that we can spend our we can divide our time while some time for the recitation of the Quran. We can divide some time with while improving our own morals, improving our own behavior. Sometime we can spend for tahajjud and having our close contact with our Lord, and then also the social time. Like I have experienced here in Germany that they made Ramadan a social event. Like my Arab brothers, especially, they made it a social event. Like at the time of breakfast, people they have get together, they come close to each other, they sit together and they talk to each other about different issues. So that can also be a part of it, that people most of the time they don't meet, but at this time at least they have a very special routine. They can sit together, talk to each other, and have a socializing. So it has a socializing impact also. And it is the only unique experience one can see in the whole world, that the whole Muslim world is having a same routine, that everybody is having same routine. Although with the timing difference, there's a difference of time in all over the world, but still they're having the same routine, and we can have a good social contact with each other. So I'm sure that people they should try their best to benefit from this uh, from these Ramadan, and especially concentrating much on prayers, concentrating on the teachings of the Holy Quran, learning it more, listening it more, and spending their time in Tahajjud or in other, especially five times prayer and other prayers also, and also have some kind of socialization with the other. And in here in West, we have a good opportunity to explain the teaching of Islam to other people, because people we here we invite people of other religion, and even in the churches we go on, people they arrange sometime. Although this time Corona has a bit different changed the life, and maybe it will not be possible, but it is also the time where we can invite people and tell them about the teachings of Islam. That is also the best use of Ramadan.
Yeah. Thank you. Before I go to our next question, we have some questions in the comment section. And the question, I over this question to you, Imam Amir Aziz. The question is, did Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad alayhi salam offered Taraweeh? And the next question is it is generally said that Taraweeh was started by Hazrat Umar alayhi salam. Is it correct?
Okay, let me take, I think, second question first, and then Taraweeh. Yes, as Maulana Kamal Haidari also explained, but that the Prophet ﷺ, he did not offer Taraweeh, but he, like there is one of the hadith says that he was having his Tahajjud prayer during Ramadan, and some people were also praying with him. So at that time, the other Sahaba they came to. Next time, obviously, people talked about this prayer, and then some more Sahaba came, and then the third day that the mosque was full. So Prophet ﷺ then stopped that, and he said that I stopped this so that that you don't consider it that it is a first or it is an obligation for you. And maybe then later on the people they can't make it that all people they can pray at Tahajjud prayer or late at night. So therefore, it was yes, Hazrat Umar, and the same routine was at the time of Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, because he also did not gave this a shape of Taraweeh during his time. But Hazrat Umar, like he did, I think it was very interesting that he once saw that people they were at the time of, after the Isha they were praying, but there was a kind of disorganized prayer. Some were praying alone, some were reciting Quran, some were in the sajda. So when he saw this disorderly situation, so then he called people and said that one imam should stand and the other people should stand in, and then in this way he made that kind of disorder manner. He gave it an order manner of Tarawih. And then next day when he passed, and then he came to know that he when he saw that people were praying in Tarawih, so he said, although it is something new, but it is very good. Like it was all orderly, and he was when he saw, but in the historically he himself never prayed in this way. And about Mirza Sahib, because he used to pray Tahajjud prayer, so we don't find any kind of historical fact that he prayed Tarawih. But it doesn't mean that there was no Tarawih prayer. Tarawih prayer was conducted there, and another point is important that Mirza Sahib never led prayer himself much. It was Maulana Nuruddin or Maulana Abdul Karim Sialokoti. They used to lead the prayer, and obviously at his time, then other people used to pray Tarawih. And also, like Tarawih, it is a kind of as Maulana Kamal Haidar has very well explained, that it is a kind of option given to you, because maybe some people, they say, okay, they have to go for job, they can't get up morning in the morning for the Hajjat, and therefore they pray at that time. So at the time of yes, it started with Hazrat Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala anhu. That is correct.
Yeah. Thank you. And also, just a personal curiosity about number of rakats. So, Maulana Haidal, if you could just explain a bit, as we see some people offering 11 rakats for Taraweeh, some people offering 20 or 22 rakats. So I'm personally a bit confused that how many rakats can you offer? Like endlessly you can go on, or no, there's a limit?
Okay, first of all, let me commend Imam Amr Aziz. He has raised two very important points in his presentation, and one is the social aspect of Ramadan, and that applies not only to, well, it applies to every aspect of life, including prayer. And this is why Taraweeh, as he rightly pointed out, is so important for people who are unable to utilize the option of Tahajjud. They can utilize it, so it brings about that socializing influence in the Jamaat, in the community. So you have to remember that in chapter 73 of the Quran, prayer is mentioned as 2/3 of the night, half of the night, lessen it or increase it. Which means if the Tahajjud is being prayed after midnight, if you want to have 2/3 of the night, you cannot start after midnight. So the Prophet Muhammad in chapter 73, which was early, prayed before midnight as well. So this is what we are saying. What has happened is in the time of Hazrat Umar as well, he saw people praying before midnight. He did not introduce Taraweeh. Taraweeh was already being performed by the people. What he did, as Amir Saab rightly pointed out, he organized them instead of having it disorganized with different people. They were already praying the Taraweeh, but individually or in Jamaat and so on, and he organized them into one. So he didn't introduce it. He merely organized what was already there. And it means, therefore, that people were praying earlier, just after Isha prayer or so, and there was no objection by the companions of the Prophet, and that continued for a long time. Even Hazrat Umar realized that people were praying, and there was no objection to it. What he did really, as I said, was to organize it. Now, later on, you will find that the prayer increased in the time of Imam Malik to 20 rakats in Medina. In some cases, there were 36 rakats. And I said the reason for that was because of the reciter of the Quran. If you're reciting the Quran very slowly, for people to stand for 8 rakats in a very long time, if you have a good reciter, that's not a problem. I have prayed my Taraweeh namaz in Ahmadiyya Village, Lahore, behind very good reciters, and they recite the entire para of Quran in 8 rakats, and you don't feel anything. But there are some people who cannot recite that well, and because of that, people get tired. So it is better to increase so it depends on your intention. If, however, you are just reading the short chapters of the Quran, it makes no sense in just reading 20 rakats, because, as Amir Sahib pointed out, that some people have to go to work or so. So you have a Jamaat where you want to shorten the experiences, and therefore you read 8 rakats, and you read short surahs so that people can, finish the prayer and go home and so on. Especially where they start Tarawih namaz later in the night, and even if sometimes Tarawih namaz is read at 11 o'clock in the night. In that case, if it can't be 8 rakats, it can be 4 rakats. As the case may be, because you don't have enough time in order to complete that. So it depends on but the general framework of Taraweeh and Tahajjud, both of them, they are the same prayer. It's just one is said before midnight, one is said after midnight. The one that is said before midnight involves Jamaat in a community. The one that is said after midnight is can be utilized by the individual who has that time and devotion to spend in the recitation and understanding of the Quran. So as I said, this question of Tahajjud and Taraweeh is what we call lafz nizar. It's just a semantics. It's a quibble over words. It's the same prayer that we pray, just at different times under different circumstances for different purposes.
Yeah. Thank you. Also, Mulana Haidal, do we have to offer Taraweeh for the whole month of Ramadan, or it depends upon the completion of the Holy Quran?
Well, first of all, we must understand the Quran has a basic principle that is said, La ikraha fid din. There is no compulsion in religion. That does not mean that I don't have to follow religion if I am free not to follow religion. No. What it means, ikraha really means, it means I am willing to follow religion, but not by force. I do so voluntarily. I do so because of I want to. In other words, I pray because I want to pray, not because I have to pray. And this is why we see in the Quran, there's a prayer of Abraham which is mentioned, Rabbi jalni muqima salati. Oh Allah, support me in the performance of my prayer, encourage me to pray. So our religion, Islam, is not the mere performance of religion. So in addition to keeping the fast, what the Quran says is you ought to think greatly about Allah. You must recognize the power of Allah and the guidance He gives you so that you can make full use of it in chapter 2, verse 185 in the section on fasting. So in the month of Ramadan, special attention is given to prayer in which that greatness of Allah is exalted. And so therefore, we need to understand that you pray as much as you can in the month of Ramadan. If your person can be able to read the entire month, if they cannot, there are some people who are ill, there are some people who are traveling, there are some people who are under different circumstances. So that it depends on the completion of the Quran. If the Jamaat or the community is reciting the entire Quran, as Amir Aziz has said, it's nice to be able to read the entire Quran in this month and expose the entire Muslim community to the whole Quran. And if you're doing that, then you should read the entire month, because you can't read the Holy Quran in a day or two. There's a period of time that you can read it. If, however, you're not reading it depends on the individual. The person may attend, may have to be working shift and cannot attend the Taraweeh prayer, so they may miss that particular night, or they may want to say it at home and they may not do it in Jamaat. So this is, since it is voluntary, one can read it in the entire month, or it depends on circumstances. The important thing is that Taraweeh and Tahajjud are prayers that we have to use for our moral and spiritual development, because real religion is character building. And we have to use these guidelines given to us in the Quran, not merely as rituals, but in order to enhance and build our spirituality and our relationship with Allah and our relationship with the rest of the community.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Let me just check. There are a few questions. Sorry, I'll just take a moment to just quickly go through them. Yeah. So we have a question, Imam Amir Aziz, if you could answer. The question is, can we get some guidance on following an imam for prayers in a virtual session, given the limitations due to COVID-19? I think it's a relevant one.
Yeah, that's also a very relevant question nowadays. First of all, we should keep in mind that in the Quran we get very clear instruction. Quran is a very natural book. Like one can see that it is very close to human nature. As Maulana Sahib has very well pointed out that the Quran says, "La ikraha fid din." There is no compulsion in religion. So is the case that in the Quran, for example, has forbidden eating the pork. It is forbidden. But at the same time, it says that in case if the times come that you have nothing to eat, then you are allowed to save your life. You can do it. And same is the case in the case of the fasting. When we say, then God has given some relaxation. That in case you are, it says that if you are in travel, you leave your fast and complete it later on. If you are sick, you leave your fast and complete it later on. So there are same is the case now is a very abnormal situation that in this situation because we have to follow the rules and regulation by the authority, by the government, or by the doctors, whatever they have suggested. So in this case, yes, we have to follow the prayers on virtual prayers because we cannot come together all people at the same time. So we have, like in Berlin Mosque, we have organized the Friday prayers that only three people, four people they are in the mosque, and then rest of the people they join us on online and through this. And same is the case in like here in Berlin or in Germany, where if the government would allow us that we can have Travi prayer or other prayers together, we will do. But if government says no, we cannot, and still the disease, there is a danger of the disease that it may spread, then yes, we can take full benefit of this technology. This keep in mind that God has given brain to the human being, and this technology, it has, we should use, take full benefit of the technology, and we can stay at our home. We can follow prayer, virtual prayer, while following from the mosque when the imam and few people are there. So this is a very good, I think, idea. And those people, even sometimes people, even when there was no COVID-19, they never used to come to the mosque. They can even benefit now while staying at home and following the prayer through online or through the net system.
Yeah. Thank you. Mulana Haidel, do you want to add something to this question?
Yes, certainly. Imam Amir Aziz has spoken quite a lot, but one thing I would like to add is that, first of all, the Quran tells us it is hudal lil muttaqeen, and fasting is also la'allakum tattaqun, to observe taqwa. The word taqwa means to guard against that which is harmful and injurious. So if you stay in home and you, in order to guard against this disease, that is taqwa also. Just as we abstain from eating and drinking, we abstain from gathering. That is also a means of fasting. It does not mean that we don't pray or we don't, do other things as well. Just that we do it in a different environment. So our focus must always be on guarding against and protecting ourselves from that which can harm us. So if I go into a mosque, it can harm myself or my family or my community or society. I am obligated by the Quran, since it guides me, to keep away from anything which is harmful and injurious. So it is incumbent upon us to follow those guidelines, those medical guidelines and health guidelines, and arrange our religion so that it will focus on our spiritual development and also protect us from harm to our physical self.
Yeah. Thank you. So certainly we can conclude that Almighty Allah wants ease for us and not difficulty. It's just we who need to understand this. So thank you so much, Imam Amir Aziz and Maulana Mustafa Kamal Haidel, for taking out time and joining us today. We also thank all our viewers.
Assalamu alaikum.
We also thank all
Ramadan
our viewers.
Mubarak to everyone.
Yeah, same to you. We also thank all our viewers for watching this show. I say walaikum assalam to all our viewers who have said salam, and also a big thank you to all those who are wishing us luck for our upcoming show. Kindly like, subscribe, and share this channel for future updates. We'll come up with more shows on Ramazan, especially during the month, to enlighten one and all. Kindly share your suggestions and questions so that we can take them in our next show. So, till we meet again, Ramzan Mubarak to all and sundry from the Lahore Ahmadiyya movement. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.